Welcome to Worthington Home. I'm Chris. If you've been watching this channel, you may recall that my husband and I just did our first ever online estate sale using Clearinghouse Estate Sales software. It was a really interesting experience, and now that it's over, I thought you might be interested in learning a little bit more about how it all went. So overall, I have to say, we were much more successful than we were expecting. We made more than double of our highest estimates, which was pretty exciting. And I can tell you that the owners were extremely pleased. So that was really fun. And the night of the final bidding, we were just glued to the computer screen and our phones, looking to see what was going up and up and up. And we were so surprised. Oh, it's a cat. This was a loaf of French bread. Now it's just an empty package. Guess what happened? I am not happy. Anyway, what? Oh my God. Anyway, so we were watching the screens and we could not believe how prices were jumping and increasing, and the things that sold really high and the things that didn't sell so high. It was nothing that either of us could have predicted. We were really surprised. I'm going to share a few of the highlights with you later. So anyway, that was exciting and a bit of a nail biter. And overall, we were really, really pleased. The next day, our job was to print out all of the invoices for the people who had won items on the estate sale. And we really struggled with that. I have a wireless printer and it just wasn't working. My husband called for tech support. He called the company and he got the runaround and he was on hold for a long time. And ultimately we were like, forget this. We just couldn't get it to work. So we ended up using the computer he has, the printer he has downstairs that he uses to print out eBay invoices with. That thing has more sawdust in it than ink or cartridges. So he had to hand feed each piece of paper as we printed out each invoice for 327 items. And of course, periodically we'd get that crunching sound as the printer ate the paper. And then we would have a moment and then we would pull the paper out of the printer. So anyway, long story short, we need a new printer. After everything was printed, we understood that although we had 327 items in the estate sale, they were not purchased by 327 people. Some people purchased like 25 things. So we understood that we were going to have to rethink our entire organizational system, because what we had done was we had listed each item individually and had them organized that way, like item 1, item 2, item 3. But the truth is that people might have bought item 1, item 300, item 200, item 285, item 4, and we understood that when people came to pick up their things, we couldn't be running all around the house trying to gather up their various items. We also felt like for sure that would be a great way to make like mistakes and for people to wait too long. And because this estate sale pickup was happening at a condominium, there's not a lot of parking. So we actually, at the very last minute, the night before, decided to drive to Rhode Island, 90 minutes away, to go organize everything into like one lot, so that when one bidder or one winner of a bid came to get their things, all of their things were grouped in one place. So we wouldn't have to like hunt and search for them. That ended up taking several hours and was such a good move on our part. Thank goodness we did that, because if we hadn't done that, I think the pickup day would have been an absolute disaster. Fortunately, we did do that, and although it took a lot of extra time and it was an additional trip, so that ended up being like an additional 3 hours of driving on top of an additional 3 to 4 hours of organizing, I'd much rather be ahead of it than have pickup day occur and be running around and stressed and freaking out. So that was a godsend. On pickup day, we got there really early, which was great, so we could just do some last minute sorting out. There was not much to do. Our nephew Andrew came to give us a hand. Thank goodness, because there was some heavy furniture that had to be moved, and I can't move stuff like that. My leg isn't good enough for that yet. And so Andrew was fantastic, and he's also like really like a self-starter and very like motivated and takes the initiative and is a problem solver. So sometimes you get extra help, and help is, you know, only as helpful as the very specific directions you give to a person. Andrew was like, could just run with things. And so that was great. He also has like a wonderful upbeat personality, and it's just nice to be around somebody like that. So he was incredibly helpful, and the whole thing was so smooth. On pickup day, we were super busy and running around, so I didn't take much footage because I really needed to concentrate and like kind of stay in the zone. But I did take a little bit of video to share with you to just give you a little bit of an idea of how it went that day. So at this point in the pickup process, we are a little bit more than halfway through, but I wanted to show you the inside of the condo because you can kind of see how things have been put into piles. And the piles are to expedite the pickup in the ways that I've already described to you. So if you go into the kitchen a little bit, now the kitchen counters were chock full of things, and you can see now they're mostly empty because a lot of people came early and there's not as much left as there was, of course, in the beginning. But you can see the little piles, and the pieces of paper that you see are the invoices. So when the people come to pick up their things, we have them sign their invoice, just showing that they picked everything up and that everything was complete. So they don't get to the car, get halfway down the road and say, oh no, I forgot something, which fortunately did not happen, not even once. So that was a really good thing. But this system, as simple as it may be, was really effective and kept things moving very smoothly. And everything was sequential as well, so we could easily retrieve what we needed to. And this is the garage, which also, you know, has things sorted out by winning bids, so grouped together. I didn't expect how much I was going to enjoy like talking to all the people who came to pick things up. People were excited to get them. They were really friendly. They were chatty. It was really, really fun. I think my favorite experience was this young couple that had just moved across the country, and they bid on a dining room table, and I think they paid like $12 or something for this table and chairs. And at the time, Eric and I were like, oh God, you know, so little money, and now we're gonna have to like break down the table and figure out, get it out of the condo and, you know, bring it into the garage. But you know what? The couple was so exciting. They were so excited. It was really fun, like, to see their reaction to it. And we were really happy for them. And it was so funny too, because they came in 2 SUVs and they managed to get this massive dining room table with 2 leaves and the table pads. And I think there were like 8 chairs, including like 2 armchairs. They got everything into their SUVs. So yeah, they were just a delight. They really were. I think our least favorite experience of the pickup day was this one customer who had thought that he had purchased a lot that included all of the items on shelves and on like a surface, and these fishing poles that were mounted to the wall. And the fishing poles were actually part of a separate lot. And looking back, I can kind of understand where that miscommunication took place. I mean, it wasn't his job to notice that the next lot number included the fishing poles and therefore couldn't be part of his lot. I mean, that wasn't his responsibility. And in fairness, I think when Eric and I were doing the inventory of the garage, we were so like super overtired. I don't think we were as clear thinking as we might have been otherwise. But anyway, so he was not so happy. I, of course, apologized. I offered to refund him, which he accepted. And he had purchased some other things as well, so it wasn't a complete waste of his time. But you know, you can have 100 happy experiences and you have one not as happy experience, and like the one that sticks to you is the one that was less happy, right? But I think all in all, he got some good stuff. And I mean, hopefully he at least feels like we were apologetic and responsive. So that was the only glitch. That was the only kind of negative moment. And it passed, and you know, the rest of the day was just fine. So I'm going to share with you just a few highlights from the online estate sale that really function like an auction. I'm not going to go over all 327 items because that would be an awfully long video, but I do want to show just a couple of things that surprised me and that were a little bit unique, because I think it might be fun for you to check those things out. I think we should start off with the really good stuff. So here are the things that sold higher than we expected. These seagulls were so ugly and random, we almost threw them in the garbage can. At the last moment, I decided that they were so weird, someone might be taken with them, so I listed them. We were shocked when they sold for $86 after a last-minute bidding war. Too funny. We found out later that they were actually purchased at great cost at a boutique store somewhere in Massachusetts. Similarly, I didn't expect these metal frog musicians to sell for $37. And again, there was a bit of a bidding war over them. This beautiful sterling silver lot included 4 salt and pepper shakers, a monogrammed napkin ring, and a bowl, and it sold for $156 after a protracted bidding war. It's interesting, after the fees, it sold for about the amount that is equivalent in grams of silver on the market. We were also pleased with this weighted sterling candlestick holder set and small compote that sold for $62. The Carolers series dolls didn't sell higher than I expected, but I was definitely pleased with their overall performance. Every single one of them sold. There were approximately 50 lots with at least 2 Carolers per lot. The average price per lot was $10 to $15, although some of them went for almost $30 and a few went for $8. Most of the Carolers were bought by a very small handful of buyers, most of them dealers. Most of the Christmas items sold, except for these Danish plates with the year on them. They are never a good seller in any market. In fact, not just the holiday plates from Royal Copenhagen or B&G, which are excellent manufacturers, but plates in particular. I'm told it's because far too many of them were produced back in the day, saturating the market to the point of rendering them useless. All of the Hummels figurines sold. We weren't sure if they would. The prices varied significantly based on the details in each piece. For instance, this girl with the doll in its carriage sold for $17. On the lower side, this girl with the basket only sold for $2. Here are the things that sold for lower prices than I expected. And I would say furniture in general would fit into that category. This absolutely stunning Pennsylvania House secretary sold for $27, which floored us. The pictures don't do it justice. It was a beautiful piece, but there was very little interest in it. I already told you about the dining room table and chairs that sold for only $12. This green micro suede sofa in very good condition sold for $1. Yep, you heard me right, $1. This pair of Thomasville chairs sold for $10. This classic ladder back chair with the rushed seat in excellent condition sold for $6. This dresser with the mirror went for the whopping price of $1. This Thomasville sideboard sold for $75. Not a tragic price, certainly, but less than I would have paid for it if I were in the market. This vintage rattan furniture set, which was a highlighted piece in the auction, sold for $350, which isn't bad, but I really thought it would go much higher. Another decent sell was this leather sofa that went for $303. Still a bargain, though, if you ask me. Some of the really low selling pieces from the auction that surprised me included this sweet baby doll bed. You can see it's metal with a beautiful quilt, and it even has sheets. It sold to an antiques dealer for $1. This antique convertible high chair on wheels in very good shape sold to the same dealer for, you guessed it, $1. Clear glass, including some beautiful cut glass and crystal, went for rock bottom prices. This is really consistent with the current market, but it was hard to take at times and really hard to understand how people could pass by some of these beautiful items. It just boggles my mind. But here's some of the highlights of things that sold that I want to particularly mention, and that includes the china. Almost all of the china sold, which is really something given that there was so much of it, especially the teacups and saucers. They did pretty well overall. I would say the prices were very consistent with the market as I know it as a reseller myself. Not one of the paintings or furniture that had reserve prices sold, and I think that's because the reserve prices were far too high. However, all of the paintings that were not on reserve did sell, and given that the artist isn't a listed artist, the prices were pretty good in my opinion. Also, the buyers seemed extremely pleased with their purchases when they picked them up, and that was really nice to see. Electronics sold without a problem, even this very heavy flat screen TV with remote, and it wasn't a smart TV. It only went for $4, but frankly, the family was glad just to not have to deal with it. This Canon PowerShot camera with charger and card went for $23. This speaker set went to a young man who is thrilled to have it for only $12. And these Technics stereo components went for $56. Pewter in general was sold very low. These goblets went for only $3. This pewter mug was $1. And this very pretty pair of porringers were only $5. And all of the pewter was marked by really good manufacturers. Overall, although some items sold for more than we were expecting and some sold for less, in the end, I think it all balanced out. The estate sale earned just under $4,000 in total. Again, more than we expected and definitely more than the family expected. So any way you look at it, it was a success and certainly worth the time and effort we put into it. As I said before, the owners were really happy with the sale. They were so pleased that so much of their parents' stuff ended up in the hands of people that really wanted it and appreciated it. They were glad to have the extra money. The money will go to the care of their mother, who is in assisted living now, memory care. So, it all worked out really well, and they were so nice. They had said, if there's anything that you guys want that didn't sell or, didn't move, you can take that. Just enjoy. Everything else is going into the dump. We're done. So we did pick up a few interesting things. I mean, nothing, super expensive or lucrative. I mean, all the best stuff was definitely taken as it should have been. That was the whole point. But it was kind of cool to get a couple of things. So I'm going to show you what we brought home. So here's the stuff we ended up coming home with. And if you're wondering what that sound is, yeah, that's Indy playing in the packaging. So this is what we came home with. This little clock, some dominoes, game of Rummy Cube, this fantastic Mahjong set. I wish I knew how to play Mahjong. It seems like something that would be very cool to know how to do. Some candles. This little pressed glass set that's unmarked, but very nice. This pretty little platter or plate. It's not marked. And this one. This one is marked. Made in Bavaria. This pretty cup, Wexler, This little stand, this plate, Salisbury bone china, England. And this is, I think this is a little Wedgwood. Yep, this little Wedgwood piece. This shell plate, this little baby doll. There's actually a couple little dolls that I ended up with. I'll show you in a minute, but this one I think is the nicest. These little like pencil sharpeners look like little souvenirs from England. A swan, pumpkin with a lid, a cat, a pumpkin, a little, I don't know, is that like a witch? I don't know. Little cloisonne bell, this little duck, and these little, I don't know, what are they? They're not pilgrims, they're like little Dutch people or something, not sure. These little shoes, which are really interesting, have this mark, this maker's mark on them. Oh, I'm going out of focus. And some very old little books. And yeah, that was it for the table. And then we ended up with this bin of stuffed animals and dolls. Some of the dolls are quite cute. I got a little jumbled up in here because we were leaving. Oops. But yeah, we'll see if there's any value to any of that. I also bid on my own estate sale, so I got this Spode plate for $1, which is certainly a lot better than I ever would have done at Goodwill. And that's a nice old one. And the other, oh, I don't want to spin. The other thing that I got is put away because the cats are too interested in it. And it's this little porcelain bunny in a nice, safe place from Destructo Cats. Oh, I completely forgot to show you. This is a Limoges sauce boat with an attached platter. But what's really neat about this piece, and I've never seen this in person before, it has stapled repairs. And I'm told there are some people who collect old porcelain with staple repairs, but certainly nobody was interested in it at the online auction. This was made in France and is Limoges, I believe. Yeah. And that is quite a crack, but the staples hold it. It's amazing to think that you can staple porcelain. But I thought that was pretty neat. So anyway, glad to take that home. My overall impressions from my first experience was that, it was positive. I think I said in another video, Clearinghouse Estate Sales is great to work with. They were really helpful. They were very responsive, very professional, did not waste my time. The software system was really easy to use, and I'm not fantastic with technology, so if I could figure it out, anybody can. And I would definitely do another online estate sale or auction through their company again. In fact, we plan to do one in the near future with some mid-century modern stuff we got from the last clean out we did, because we had some pieces, some like bigger lamps and things that we couldn't ship. We also are working on a very small estate this coming up weekend, and we've already purchased a few furniture pieces from the owner that we plan to resell. So that will be interesting, and we'll do that at our own house, because I think one of the things that was most time consuming about this last experience was we spent so much time driving back and forth. 4 days driving, 3 hours each time. So that was a lot of time that wasn't productive. It was just going back and forth. That said, I am so appreciative of having had this experience, because our clients were so chill. They didn't care if stuff sold or not. They really let us just run with things. And so then moving forward, if we had clients who were maybe more particular, challenging or whatever, we would have some experience to back up, our decision-making and the way we proceeded. So we're really very appreciative to our friend for having given us this opportunity. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this little kind of recap of our first ever online estate sale. It was quite a learning experience. I learned constantly throughout the experience. It's amazing the things you don't think of until you go through it. And I know that if we do this again for clients, it will go so much more smoothly because of the experiences that we had and all of the different things that we learned. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you have a fantastic day. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.